Hi, my name is Prayag Desai. I work at Hindustan Times Mumbai covering the environment beat for the paper. Today we'll be talking to Saumya Roy, a former journalist with HT Media's business paper Mint and now a writer who will be publishing her book Mountain Tales, which looks at a cast of characters that work as waste pickers in the Deonar landfill.
This June, I guess it turned 122, this municipality of Castaway Belongings. And I would say that it was created, or garbage first started coming here in June 1899, right after the plague. This place was bought. The land, which was a marshy, watery swamp at the time, was bought in 1897 when the plague raged in Bombay, and the municipal authorities believed, correctly so, that it was rats that had coincidentally come on trading ships from China. Even then, had brought the plague with them, and as you know, rats travel with garbage and with filth, and so they were spreading through the city and taking the plague with them. And so authorities eventually decided that they needed to take this and garbage was growing within the city along with the city. As the city was growing, garbage was growing, and there was no place for it. So they decided to make a train line and take this garbage to Deonar, which was at the time a watery swamp. So I would say that right from that time, it has reflected the city, probably growing slowly at first, and then through during the 90s, really growing very quickly. And I would also say that from the 60s onwards, when Maharashtra was formed as a state, and Bombay had was, of course, it became very officially the commercial capital of the country. Then we had a certain conception of it as a world city, and pavement dwellers, slum dwellers, etc., people who lived along train lines began to be sent to this ward around the garbage mountains. So lots of settlers from different redevelopment projects were sent to live in this ward and around this area. So there again, you see this reflection of what the city wants to be, and what this becomes a municipality of castaway belongings, castaway people, and to castaway disease maybe, to have the city is conceptualized as in a particular way, and this is a different mirror of that, right?
Somewhere midway through the book, you touch upon the 2016 fires, which made news. They were on the front line. They were on the headlines of Mumbai's papers, at least for days on end. Did the fires do enough to visibilize Deonar in the minds of other citizens who, on a day-to-day, actually are not even aware of the landfill and its existence?
Yes, I certainly feel that it made a difference among policymakers. As you know, the court case, which is now, I think, 26 years old, or 25 years old, it started in 1996. So that got revived.
Right.
And the hearings began again on the court case to close this place down, to make a waste to power plant. They made another attempt to make a waste to power plant, and now they're making a third attempt at least to make and it seems this time that it will come up. So certainly among policymakers, it did make a difference. They had already begun, and they had already sort of set up Kanjurmarg, which as a more scientific facility. And today, most of Mumbai's waste goes to Kanjurmarg, where it is dealt with better, certainly, than it is at Deonar. So among among policymakers, it certainly seems to have made some difference, material difference. Among city residents, yes, I mean, certainly they do say that there was a whole campaign run for segregation of waste, and dealing with some of it within building compounds, so to reduce what goes to the landfill. And data does show that what the waste generated in the city has come down as a result of those campaigns. So it has made some difference. Has it made enough of a difference?
In April, when there was a public hearing to hear out citizens' concerns over the upcoming waste to energy plant, We had over 100 people in the public hearing. I was one of them, and there were citizens from across the city, right? So environmentalists from living as far away from the landfill as Borivali and Santa Cruz and Andheri. But there was actually only one person from in the immediate vicinity of the landfill who was actually present. And he came up and actually asked for the public hearing to be postponed because he said, a lot of us do not even have access to the internet to attend a virtual public hearing. Our book is not prescriptive, like it doesn't, you don't claim to be an expert on waste management in any way. But if I could for a second push you to tell us in your view, what, if not an ecological solution, what would be a social solution to what is often described as the menace or the nuisance of rag picking? What, according to you, can be done?
I mean, I would only say that many of the characters in this book, if you see Vita Bai, they are a family of, there are 3 generations of waste pickers. It is through her that I begin to trace the history of this place. So she arrived here, she has not even a clear memory of when she arrived here, probably somewhere in the early 70s. So we began lending to her, then her son, and then her grandson. And it's the same with Hyder Ali's family. There are 3 generations of waste pickers. With Salma, there are 3 generations of waste pickers. So they're most inextricably tied with it. You could say that it's a toxic bond, but it is a bond, and it is an unbreaking bond. And they are the only people, taking anything away from this place, who are reducing these mountains. Of course, I'm acutely aware of the fact that the amount of waste reaching the landfill has reduced. So I do acknowledge that. But by the same token, the only thing that reaches here is taken away by them, and not really the only recycling happening here is done informally by the waste pickers. Right. And so any solution for this place must also include them.